r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. What morbid fact do you know? NSFW. If bodies are kept in coffins that are sealed tight enough, such as the in-wall type of memorial, sometimes enough gases can build up that the body basically explodes and can spill out onto the ground, going out with a bang. If you electrocute someone while they are submerged in water, it won't leave burn marks. I didn't know the sponge was supposed to be wet. In Formula 1, safety belts were not mandatory until 1972. Before then, drivers believed it better to be ejected in a crash and either die instantly from a broken neck or suffer many broken bones. The alternative, they thought, was to be trapped and essentially cremated alive should the gas tanks ignite. I clicked a video of a fiery crash I saw on YouTube. From the late 80s I believe, watched the crash and car ignite. Waited for the man to emerge. Waited some more. And some more. Then an opponent ran up to the car only to be held back by the fire crew who were essentially letting the man burn. Took a while before I realized what I watched. Edit. It was the crash of Roger Williamson in 1973. A professor at my lecture today said that deer will lay on decaying corpses because they produce heat and the deer like that. Basically deer treat corpses as their personal sauna. Bambi just chillin'. A body can swell to 3 times its normal size, especially if the person passes away in a bathtub. I will never forget the time when I was a teenager, surfing rotten.com as we all did and seeing image of a man who died in a bath. He had a thing that kept the bath water warm. So by the time he was found, he had turned into a human stew. I still can't eat stew. You can tell someone is dead by trying to move their jaw. It's one of the first body parts to show signs of rigidity. This reminds me of Batman the animated series, where after the Joker would kill someone with his poisonous gas they would all have a smile on their face, and now makes sense as to why they would. Edit. This scene in particular oughta be link. Before you die, your last words could be, "I don't feel so good." I was a paramedic for 15 years and heard dozens of people's final words. The phrase I heard most often, possibly from half to 3/4 of them, was some form of "I don't feel so good." I've also heard, "Wait, something's wrong. Something's happening. I don't feel right. Wait, something's wrong. It's happening. Oh no. Oh no." People feel the blood leaving their brain, I think. Must be like a rush. A family friend passed away from a massive brain bleed. She was just sitting having dinner and stopped. Said, "There's something happening in my head," and passed out. Half of me is vaguely traumatized after hearing the story. Half of me sort of wants to know what she felt just then, since it wasn't "my head hurts" or similar. Morbidly obese people need to be cremated at a lower temperature so the fat doesn't quickly liquefy and start pouring out of the people oven. Can confirm. I used to work at a funeral home. I know a guy who had to kitty litter a few gallons of man grease off the crematory floor. In the Middle Ages, you could be boiled in a pot of lead for certain crimes. What crimes they were I have forgotten, but it certainly was a thing. There was a law in ancient Rome, or Greece, I don't exactly remember, where if a woman killed the heir she would be forced to drink molten iron. If you want to dump a body, it can take up to 2-4 weeks to fully decompose if out in the open. But if you bury it in a casket it can take up to 44 years. Judith Barsi was the young actress who voiced Anne-Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven and Ducky in The Land Before Time. She was murdered at the age of 10 by her abusive father, who also killed her mother at the same time. Judith's gravestone displays Ducky's catchphrase, "Yep, yep, yep." What in the actual duck? You can die from pooping too hard. Edit. So I see a lot of people mentioning Elvis. Keep in mind, yes, this was ultimately the reason why Elvis died, but it was also in large part due to his terrible eating habits. He also had an almost religious love of cheeseburgers. This contributed heavily to his death. TFW, you check after you wipe and find a lung in the bowl of the toilet. The hole if your erection lasts more than 4 hours. Receive immediate medical or whatever is the reason why the Brazilian wandering spider, located in the Amazon, is so dangerous. Its bite is supposed to make you have an erection for a long time, and it's pretty hard to find medical services when you're in the Amazon. What happens with boners is that blood fills up the penis and mostly stays there until the boner is gone. If it stays longer than 4 hours, the blood is deprived of oxygen. It can turn into a jelly-like substance with lots of clotting. So leaving it untreated could clog you up as the blood flows back. By the time you get to a doctor, they have 2 options. One is get a 60ml syringe, W a needle, and suck out the blood. That's the consistency of toothpaste, while also flushing it with salt water. Also W syringe and needle. When those clots stop, the needle. The second option, which is usually saved for last, is to vertically insert a small blade inside the meter slit in the head and sharply twist it by 90 degrees. Then just let it drain. Yeah, that's gonna be a big no for me, dog. Just go ahead and shoot me. There is a phenomenon in the Philippines of people being murdered after singing My Way by Frank Sinatra in karaoke bars. Really? Like people kill them for singing it, or just coincidence? There's been multiple cases of people actually ending up being eaten by an escalator. I have seen enough videos to know I will take the stairs if I ever go to China. After the Pulse nightclub shooting, when the cops were investigating, you'd think it was pretty quiet in there. It was actually a cacophony of ringing cell phones. So many friends and loved ones calling people they knew were there, hoping they'll answer the phone and say they're okay. A similar thing happened during 9/11. Firefighters have a PAS device, personal alert safety system, that is paired with their breathing apparatus, and it rings when they are incapacitated to alert for help. After the towers fell, you could hear many of these devices chirping among the debris. Youtube link. youtube.com link. It is way easier than you would expect to break someone's ribs during CPR, and it feels really weird. Pop like bubble wrap. Although you can break ribs, most of the popping is from costal cartilage. As a striker saw cut through the skull cap during an autopsy, the smell created is exactly like fritters. Do you know this personally? And why is that? An adult human body impacting on concrete does not sound organic or wet at all. It reminded me more of a car accident than anything else. Source: last week someone committed suicide by jumping off of the building I live in. I heard the impact and saw the body when I walked out onto my terrace to see what was going on. Second morbid fact. From the same source. The human brain looks far more white and pink when it gets ejected from the skull. I always thought a live brain would be red from the blood in it, but I was wrong. Edit. Words. There is a parasite called dracunculiasis, or more commonly guinea worm, that can enter your leg through drinking infected water. You won't notice anything until 1 year later, when a small portion breaks the skin to release larvae. At this point, it's a meter long. A meter long, and it has to be extracted centimeter by disgusting centimeter. NTDs are the stuff of nightmares. They've almost been eradicated in humans. It's one of Jimmy Carter's big missions. Trouble is, dogs keep getting them. I think this is pretty well known on Reddit, but it's a common misconception that your hair and fingernails continue to grow after you die. What actually happens is your skin dries out and recedes, which gives the appearance of nails' hair being longer than they were before death. There's something called anesthesia awareness, whereof certain people go into surgery and they don't give you enough anesthesia. It will look like you're asleep, eyes closed, not talking or moving, but the patient can still hear and feel everything that's happening. But here's the scary part. You're unable to move, speak, or open your eyes, unless they have a monitor to show your brain activity. You're stuck with having to endure the pain. Also, fun fact, more likely to happen to redheads. People that carry the redhead gene, like me, are unusually resistant to pain medications and anesthesia. Lidocaine barely works on me. I've had an injection into my knee, a big ol' contrast needle into my hip, and a uterine scope. The last was the most horribly painful of all. Little pinch my ass. It takes 2 Vicodin for me to get pain relief. I go without because doctors are in denial that her outwardly healthy 27-year-old could be in continuous pain. Every surgery I've had, I've woken up much earlier than they expected. Startling and surprising nurses who expected me to be comatose for another hour or so. Thanks for the redhead genes, grandpa. On MT Everest, you have the Rainbow Valley, the last zone to climb to reach the peak. Which sounds cute, but it's really the colorful jackets of dead climbers who are frozen in time against the white harsh snow. Also, when close to the peak, the oxygen levels are so low that the body is starting to die. You only have a few minutes to reach the top. That selfie at the top is worth dying for, though, I assume. The youngest inmate to have died at Kingston Pen, Canada's first prison, was 9 years old. He died of tuberculosis and his crime was larceny in 1857. Edit. I'm a tour guide at this site and I've got plenty more morbid facts like that. Feel free to PM with questions. The youngest female inmate to die at KP was 14. Also of tuberculosis, and her crime was not listed. This was 1867. We had another 13-year-old boy who died of tetanus and his crime was also larceny in 1857. The astronauts of Space Shuttle Challenger didn't die until the spacecraft hit the ocean. They fell through the air for almost 3 minutes. That's terrifying. Knowing you're 100% going to die for a solid 3 minutes and not being able to do anything about it. Edit for the smartasses. Yes, I know we're all gonna die, but if you knew for certain you'll die in the next 3 minutes, you'd be scared too. The dolphin from the television show Flipper committed suicide. She swam into my arms and looked me right in the eye. Took a breath and didn't take another one. I let her go and she sank straight down on her belly to the bottom of the tank. Freshly deceased people can sometimes expel their stomach contents by way of their esophagus if rolled onto their side. Also, it's the worst smelling thing in the world. When you're aware of just how dangerous escalators are, it's pretty surprising that they exist. If you get caught in one, you just die. It sucks you in. Meanwhile, elevators are the safest way of any mechanical travel. I'm almost 35 and I worry more now about being gibbed by an escalator than ever before. Like, what if it catches my shoelace? When they embalm people, they just dump all the juices in the sewer. You're not wrong. It goes into the sanitary drain systems in some areas as it isn't as regulated. So it's mixed in with the poo to be treated anyway, which goes through a numerous amount of chemical treatments. Some areas require it to go through a system and be removed by a company. Different laws for different states kind of issue. The outer layer of your eye protects your inner eye from your immune system, otherwise the immune system will attack the inner eye. In other words, the outer layer of the eye keeps the rest of your eye a secret. What's so bad in the inner eye that the immune system feels the need to attack? You can skin many creatures, including humans, alive. They will stay alive for longer than you think. Even if you're rough. Longer if you're careful. Edit. I've never done this. Never will. Don't worry. Just know from the internet. Are you okay, my man? The second person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel surviving with very serious injuries was Bobby Leach. 15 years later, he slipped on an orange, not banana, peel on the street. This fall caused a leg infection so bad he eventually passed away from the medical complications it caused. Imagine surviving Niagara Falls and then dying to an orange. Life is weird. Also, not sure of how much of a standard practice it is, but if you donate body to a school, they will possibly ship your body elsewhere. I know I saw a comment about how you need to be nearby the place you donate to because they don't want to ship you to them, but they may ship you elsewhere. I know, at least at the local college by me, they get all their cadavers from Texas and Illinois, and we ship ours to them, so that there's less of a chance that a student may know the person. And they also cover the faces unless doing any sort of head face things. Again, at least the one by me does. If you wrap a body in barbed wire and throw it into a body of water, it will not float to the top. The expanding gases force the skin to expand against the barbed wire and then puncture, releasing the gas. One whole roll of barbed wire is also sufficient enough in weight to keep the body submerged during the off-gassing process. Police in some jurisdictions will look for barbed wire purchases from stores as telltales sometimes. After a little bit of being burnt alive, you will have sustained enough nerve damage to not feel any pain before dying shortly. Oddly comforting. When you die, your stomach will digest itself. When you blush, the lining of your stomach also turns red. That seems like shit, but I don't doubt it. Ducking like and subscribe.